The sun broke through my windshield at 7 a.m., sharp bathing my tight garage in a sharp golden light. I was running behind my coffee, lukewarm and my temper thinner than the HOA handbook. All I wanted to do was back out of my driveway and get to a client meeting without the universe tossing another wrench into my works. But there it was, as sure as death and taxes. Lisa's silver Mercedes sedan parked like a self-satisfied bouncer across my driveway. I honked the horn twice and a third time, just to make sure nothing. I rolled down my window and yelled towards her immaculate colonial-style home silence. For the sixth time this month, I was stuck in my own garage due to my neighbor choosing her spin class over mere human decency. It wasn't irritating anymore. It was personal. Last week, her caper lost me a paying client who did not take kindly to my unprofessional lateness. The worst part, she knew precisely what she was doing. I'd witnessed that smirk, that little tilt of her head when I called her on it last time, her voice dripping with feigned innocence. "Oh, chill, it's just a minute." A minute that turned into hours. That was when I made up my mind enough was enough. If no one else was going to rein her in, I would, and I'd make sure she'd never forget it. My neighborhood was one of those picture-perfect suburbs where every mailbox was the same and the grass was mowed to military perfection on the surface. It was all neat lawns and friendly waves, but behind that shiny facade, the HOA ran like a shadow government, and Lisa was its dictator-in-chief. She had a sharp brunette pixie cut that bounced with every calculated step, always dressed in designer athleisure that screamed, "I'm better than you." You'd think someone who spent her mornings at boutique fitness, evenings nitpicking about classes and porch decorations, wouldn't have time to destroy lives, but Lisa took it upon herself the first time she blocked my driveway. I gave her the benefit of the doubt. Perhaps her garage was full. Perhaps someone was making a delivery. But by the fourth time, it was evident this was not by chance. I attempted to speak to her, politely, asking her to keep my driveway clear. She just nodded, said she'd keep that in mind, and then complained about me to the HOA for excessive engine noise at 8 a.m. That same morning, an HOA warning landed in my mailbox stating my garage doors. Navy blue paint broke the neighborhood's neutral palette. My garage was the same color as half the street, but somehow mine was the issue. In the ensuing weeks, her behavior worsened. She'd double park when her book club met her Mercedes parked across my driveway, while her friends' SUVs take over the curb. Once she departed just enough space for me to almost fit, and I came close to scratching my car. Trying my security footage became a dark comedy with me as the bumbling hero seething behind the wheel while Lisa's car played the villain. I again accosted her after missing an important Zoom call. I wasn't screaming, just wondering why she kept doing it. She rolled her eyes and said, "Maybe you should plan your day around my schedule. I've got bar at 9 o'clock. That's when I realized this wasn't carelessness. This was power. She did it because she could, because nobody had ever made her consider the consequences. I attempted the official method, emailing the HOA president, a spineless man named Greg, who promised to take a look. Days went by. Lisa blocked me again. I submitted a formal complaint only to receive a reply, not from Greg, but from Lisa, on HOA letterhead, rejecting my complaint for lack of evidence and fining me for an unauthorized porch light. She wasn't just breaking the rules, she was the rules. I began speaking with neighbors. Mrs. Thompson, a sweet retiree who'd lived there decades, told me Lisa once attempted to have her vintage Mustang towed because it was too red for the neighborhood aesthetic. Another neighbor was fined for a birdhouse that was too playful. Lisa was waging a one-woman battle on individuality under the guise of HOA authority, and no one had ever stood up to her. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, looking at a sketch of my driveway, a stack of HOA notices next to me. My friend Jake, a contractor who owed me a favor, visited to deliver some equipment. I complained about Lisa, and he was laughing, saying, "Man, too bad you can't just wall her car in." The thought struck me like a bolt of lightning, not literally, of course. I wasn't going to vandalize her precious Mercedes, but what if I could capture her legally, theatrically, in a way that shouted checkmate? I began plotting. First, I evidenced the kind no one would argue about. I upgraded my cameras to high-def recording every inch of my driveway. I marked every time Lisa parked there, time-stamped and saved. I taped our sidewalk conversations capturing her, confessing she had a special arrangement with the HOA to circumvent certain rules. By week 3, I had a dossier, videos, audio, dismissed complaints, phony fines, and a pattern of conduct that would make a lawyer drool. But I wasn't going to court. I had something better in mind. I ordered cinder blocks from a supplier saying they were for a backyard shed. They came quietly stacked behind a tarp in my garage. I wasn't going to spring it on her. I wanted her to give me the opportunity herself, and she would. She always did for days later. It happened I was about to leave for the hardware store when Lisa's Mercedes pulled up. Shiny in the morning sun, she was in a neon tank top drinking a green smoothie and parked dead center blocking my driveway. She got out, looked right at my camera and waved like she was challenging me to do something about it. I stood at my window letting the anger percolate, not boil over. I waited until she strutted off towards the community center to her HOA meeting, then called Jake. 20 minutes later, his truck rolled up with a wheelbarrow full of concrete mix and some used fencing panels. The scheme was simple: construct a cinder block wall around her car close enough to hold it, but not touching, no scratches, no dents. Nothing she could sue for. Every action would be legal, documented, and intentional. We worked layering blocks behind her rear bumper, then in front, angling them just enough to catch her. Jake mixed the concrete, while I set each block, our silence punctured only by his remark, "This feels like we're entombing a pharaoh." When we were done, her Mercedes resembled a modern art installation caged in gray. We staked a sign: private property, no trespassing. You were warned. I took photos from every position, time-stamped, geo-tagged, and emailed them to myself and a lawyer friend just in case. Then waited 2 hours later, Lisa came back. Her confident stride halted the second she got to the wall. Her face went through shock, confusion, and rage. In seconds, she ran to her car, tugging at the door, as if the blocks would bow to her whim. I got out, phone recording. "You parked on my property again," I said, cool as ice. After several warnings, I defended my space. She yelled about HOA, power vandalism lawsuits. I showed her the footage, the logs, the emails. Want to call the cops, or should I? Her face turned red, fists balled, but for once she had no retort. Neighbors began to trickle out, phones in hand. Someone brought popcorn. Lisa attempted to rally, yelling about her authority, but the crowd just stood and watched unmoved. Her reign was crumbling and she knew it. A police car pulled up, lights flashing. Lazily, Lisa ran to the officers, spitting accusations: vandalism, harassment, emotional distress. I handed over my file: videos, photos, emails, neighbor statements. The taller cop flipped through it, whistled, and said, "You've got quite the case here." To Lisa, he told, "Ma'am, if this is correct, you've been parked illegally in spite of warnings. He hasn't touched your car legally. We can't do anything." Lisa's jaw fell. The police told her to call a tow truck and walked away. The street erupted into a subdued celebration. Neighbors brought out lawn chairs, handed out drinks, and took photos by evening. The story hit the neighborhood group chat, then Reddit with a post entitled "Lisa's Last Stand." It went viral: memes pouring in her car, photoshopped into a fortress. Lisa wasn't a local tyrant anymore. She was a world punchline. The next morning, her Mercedes still rested, a shining captive. Lisa remained within blinds, closed, quiet. Her husband, a quiet fellow I'd hardly seen, came over to me and asked me to de-escalate. I would leave the blocks in place if Lisa agreed to sign a contract never to park there again, and withdrew her spurious HOA fines against me and 2 others. He nodded but didn't follow up on it. That afternoon, the HOA convened an emergency meeting. Someone had leaked my video compilation to the board's attorney, revealing Lisa's spurious fines, forged signatures, and dubious budget approvals. The meeting hall was filled. Neighbors who hadn't bothered to show up in years, filling the seats Lisa occupied at the front, pale but defiant. I made my argument: videos, emails, timelines. No theatrics, just facts. When I finished, the room was silent before it burst into applause. Lisa stood and stormed out, leaving behind her papers. The board suspended her that evening, pinning a full audit. 2 days later, an email from a board member confirmed the audit's results. Lisa had skimmed thousands of dollars from HOA funds, $2,500 for landscaping that never materialized, $1,800 for an imaginary security patrol. Her signature was everywhere. The board voted to terminate her permanently and seek legal action. A Pharrell sign went up on her grass. Days later, her Mercedes remained stuck, not because I wouldn't budge the blocks, but because she wouldn't request neighbors made it into a shrine and place pink flamingos in a plaque that read, Lisa's Legacy. I took down the blocks a fortnight later. Not for her, but for myself, the point was asserted. Lisa departed quietly one morning, her house vacant at lunchtime. Mrs. Thompson gave me a hand-painted cinder block gold with the Liberator inscribed on it. Leave it in my garage. A reminder that speaking up works. The HOA adapted new bylaws tempered unfettered power, and I got on the board to keep it honest. Meetings were animated with coffee and laughter. The neighborhood stretched again. Kids played barbecues, made their way back months later. An unsigned letter arrived. I was mistaken. Don't let anyone else do what I did. I read it, smiled, and swung open my garage door. Sunlight streamed in, no cars in the way, just open space and peace.